But shifting gears to a focus we've been looking at for a month really intensely, but the last several weeks as it kicked off and now is getting ready to close early next week, and that is the situation with the biggest grouping of world leaders in history for the UN summit on climate change that's really a carbon tax, global government, global court initiative. The NewAmerican.com is the magazine of the John Birch Society. Crack reporters out there taking actions. And Alex Newman is an international journalist, educator, author, and consultant. And he writes for WorldNet Daily and the New American Magazine. And, of course, is a frequent guest here. I'm not going to go over his whole bio, his TV programs, and the conferences and the rest of it. But he joins us as a crack investigative journalist from the ground in socialist-occupied globalist command base UN cesspool Paris. Nothing against the beautiful city of Paris, but it is a mixture of jihadville and UN socialist cesspool where the socialists are all above the law and tax exempt and use terrorist attacks. They open the door for to basically declare martial law. You've been there now for, I guess, a large portion of this conference. What can you report to us, Alex Newman?
Well, I think you gave a really good description right at the start. I mean, this is not a conference about the climate. Every once in a while they'll talk about global warming or climate, but they're not really interested in the science or the climate.
That's really the cover.
It is, exactly. And what they're really discussing here is international wealth redistribution, setting up the nucleus of the global government, carbon taxes, and, essentially every leftist, globalist, socialist, ridiculous idea has found its way into this conference under one guise or another. So, you have the Save the Forest people with the carbon tax people, and all of them working together to essentially build up the nucleus of the global government. And the latest draft treaty that they've released, the last one I have came from last night. They're supposedly working on the next one. Essentially, it's committing the world to reduce and eventually eliminate by 2050 the use of fossil fuels. So really, this is going to be condemning billions of people to perpetual poverty and probably early death. So, the consequences of this summit are going to be huge, and they're going to be well beyond just the loss of freedom. We're talking about people's lives on the line here.
It's so sickening to watch this group of collectivists in jumbo jets with all the hookers and the $1,000 a plate food for 2 weeks, lecturing everyone on how they can't have air conditioning or automobiles. I mean, they actually do that. I'm not just saying that. Everyone knows that. And then they cast themselves as the heroes in their own taxpayer-funded production. I mean, this is so ridiculously over the top and so villainous, Mr. Newman, but they seem to get away with it.
Well, they do. I'm actually sitting in the press pool right now, and it shouldn't be called the press pool. It should be called the cheerleading pool, because you have here a bunch of climate cultists who believe, of course, the global warming scam, and they also believe that these governments, these dictatorships that are here in force, have the power to, control the climate, right? They think that, at least the press pool thinks that if we slash our fossil fuel use, deindustrialize our society, transfer all our wealth to third world dictators, suddenly the climate is going to obey us, and the temperature is not going to increase above 1.5 degrees. So, if you understand the science, if you've been talking to the scientists, if you've looked at the IPCC information, it's clear that this is all a gigantic charade to con us out of our money and out of our freedom and out of our national sovereignty. But the reason people aren't educated by and large around the world, Americans are much better at this than the rest of the world, but it's because of the people upstairs and the people down here in the press pool. It's pathetic, it's a disgrace, and I'm just ashamed to call myself a journalist being in this area. I mean, these people are really cheerleaders. If you look around, you see on all their laptops, they have change the system, not the climate. And these are supposed to be journalists. You have the AFP, the French news agency, co-sponsoring the climate and pumping out ridiculous propaganda about these governments are going to save us from sea level rise.
Well, France doesn't produce anything anymore, and their governing classes, as you know, is going to get a large slice of third world carbon tax that's meant to absolutely cripple them. So this is the new colonialism. And if you watch Sony, PlayStation, or these other video game ads, you get what's happening. It's all be a hero, command forces, lead assault troops, be a man, be a leader. Don't really do that in the real world, in business or life, or be a great dad, take care of your kids. Don't be a firefighter, police officer, anything like that. Don't be a hardworking farmer. Don't be an engineer or a writer or a teacher. No, you're going to be a hero in this fantasy land. Well, they've billed it as save Save the Earth from global freezing. Save the Earth from global warming. Save the Earth from global climate change. Be a climate warrior. Help take over. Help govern. Live off other people's tax money and feel good about yourself. And so that's what it is. It's all cast where they're just like, oh, we're heroes. Oh, we're so great. And it's a giant, flaming, conscious fraud invented by Enron 20 years ago and Al Gore on record to literally take a cut of all human activity on Earth. It couldn't get more ridiculous.
That's exactly right. They're talking about putting a price on carbon dioxide. You know, all the scientists that we've talked to since we arrived in Paris have explained carbon dioxide is the gas of life. This is the stuff we exhale. This is what plants need to breathe. And the Earth is starved for carbon dioxide. So you have this giant charade here where we're pretending that the gas of life is pollution in need of regulation and in need of taxation so that we can pay carbon taxes to Al Gore, to Goldman Sachs, to the United Nations, all the while having what little remains of our wealth and what little remains of our free market and what little remains of our liberty stripped from us to deal with the hoax. And you can tell it's a very well-orchestrated charade here. You know, they have the rent-a-mobs outside, these taxpayer-funded NGOs demanding climate justice, and the negotiators walk past and they say, oh, yes, you know, the world's citizens really want climate justice. We better get to work. And so they're in there right now haggling about whether we're going to keep temperature increase.
4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Jumbo jets bad unless they're ours. It's just...
Alex, we're at a private jet airport. This conference is taking place at Le Bourget. This is an airport for private jets so that the presidents and the dictators and the celebrities and the Al Gores can come here in their private jets. And then they say, well, we bought carbon offsets.
And let's be honest, they don't have Hollywood trailers anymore. The jets are for the sex parties, the drugs. Under international law, they can keep them all on board, never clear customs, even bring in some sex slaves. And I'm not joking. I bet money some of these UN delegates have got people chained up on board those aircraft. They're always getting caught doing it. I mean, you cannot make up the magnitude of the corruption, the insolence. Look at this report. World war will run out of breathable air unless we cut carbon. See? We'll be right back. I start ranting and raving pretty much just as second nature like breathing. Because I think about the hundreds. They're reporting over 300 large, wide-body jets just for the world leaders and their staff, and then hundreds of other private guests for Alec Baldwin and Leonardo DiCaprio and all these people who live like emperors to lecture us on how we're evil and need to be arrested because we don't want carbon taxes. And then I have this article, report. This is from Yahoo, and it's takepart.com, just some PR firm, leftist group. Report, the world will run out of breathable air unless carbon is cut. Now, this is an inversion of reality. It is on record that the carbon cycle is 4 things. Sunlight, okay? Water, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. If you don't have water, sunlight, carbon dioxide, and oxygen, the carbon cycle ends. They admit that the Earth is losing a lot of its atmosphere, has less atmosphere than it had millions of years ago. Mars, they've now confirmed, has water all over it, did have oceans on it, lost most of its atmosphere. Plants and animals in symbiotic relationship in the carbon cycle with water and sunlight and carbon dioxide and oxygen create more carbon dioxide and oxygen that are trace gases. It is known that the Earth has had carbon dioxide at hundreds of times its levels, and oxygen was much higher as well. We are in a crisis, actually. I can't believe it. And, of course, that's mainline science. You can go discover that. That's not debated. That they believe desertification and things are being accelerated because of lower carbon dioxide levels. And then they put out reports saying we've got to cut carbon or the Earth's going to die. There'll be no air. When they're the ones. It's almost God had a plan. Like, there's all this fossil fuel. It's dirty. It's got problems, but we burn it right at the key time, and it beefs up our atmosphere a little bit. I mean, we should really have big terraforming facilities like aliens, you know, where they've got them pumping CO2 into the atmosphere to terraform the planet. LV-246 or whatever it's called in the movie. I'm not kidding. We should actually not be pumping it back into the ground. We should be pumping it up. They're talking about cutting down trees. I'm going to just keep moving to the end of the hour because I'm cutting into his time and I want to hear him report here. It's just that, do you understand the magnitude of this, folks? Report, the world will run out of breathable air unless carbon is cut. Marine plants such as phytoplankton are estimated to produce more than half the Earth's atmospheric oxygen, according to the National Oceanic Atmosphere Administration. And then it just goes into all this mumbo-jumbo garbage and saying if it rises 6 degrees, it'll hurt the plankton and then we won't have the oxygen. More CO2 makes them produce more oxygen. It's just loads of bull. I've had all the top experts on phytoplankton and astrophysics, and I'm ranting. 3 minutes to break. What else is happening, Alex Newman, at the conference where they're going to save us from the carbon cycle that is life itself?
You made some excellent points right there, Alex. We went on Monday. We went to the Counter COP21 conference put on by the Heartland Institute. Lots of top experts. I mean, the credentials of these guys are just off the charts, and all of them explained carbon dioxide is wonderful for the planet. The Earth is starved for carbon dioxide. The global warming hoax needs to be exposed because millions of people are going to die. The next day, we went to the French Counter COP21 summit. Same thing. European experts, the head of the European Chemical Society, professors from top universities explaining exactly the same thing. Carbon dioxide is wonderful for the planet. It is the gas of life. And these fraudsters here at the United Nations are saying it's pollution and we need to regulate it. One of the things that went on here that I do want to tell the listeners about, my colleague and I were actually intimidated by the communist Chinese dictatorship. And so that made us really uncomfortable. We just put an article out about it. Yesterday, we went over to their booth and asked them for an interview. Instead of giving us an interview, they tracked us back to the media center. And I turn around from my desk, and the same guy we had talked to is sitting there snapping pictures of my colleague and I. So we're going to make a big deal out of this. Communist China does this all the time, haranguing dissidents, spying on dissidents. And it's unacceptable. The UN says there's nothing they can do about it. The French police say there's nothing they can do about it. Well, at least people need to know about it. These are the maniacs that the UN is talking about handing over the keys to.
I bet there's nothing they can do about it if Chuck Norris kicks them in the nose.
Right. So that would be brilliant. But, I mean, the French police say, no, that's UN territory. We're powerless. We'll take your I filed a report with them, but they can't do anything. They can't even come in here. They can't even wear their police uniforms here. Then the UN police say, no, they're with the government. Sorry, there's nothing we can do. We work for the government.
That's what I was saying earlier. Diplomatic immunity zone for them to snort all the cocaine they want.
That's right. I mean, the diplomatic immunity stuff has got to go. So many crimes are being perpetrated all over the world, including in the United States. We have spies, drug dealers.
Stay there. I'm going to come back and for like 10 minutes give you the floor to really roll with your report, Alex Newman, and what you went through with the communist Chinese, the photos you have up at the New American Magazine. We just showed that to TV viewers. We're going to post your article at Infowars.com as well, thenewamerican.com. See why I get so upset? It just gets crazier. Communist Chinese harassing people, diplomatic immunity, taxpayer paid for. I mean, folks, when are we going to get angry and say no? Is Chuck Norris going to run for president in 2016? Am I pulling your leg? Was I pulling your leg last week when I told you Donald Trump was coming on? Could we draft Chuck Norris to run 2016? A flying sidekick takes out Hillary. A flying sidekick takes out Jeb Bush. Flying sidekick knocks the orange possum off of the head of Donald Trump. By the way, Donald Trump makes fun of his hair and the fact that he's orange, just like I make fun of my big pumpkin head. So it's all done in friendliness. We're going to premiere the trailer for the first time ever, Amerigeddon, at the start of the next hour, and then we will have Mike Norris, the director, in studio with us for the balance of the hour. Amerigeddon is a dire warning, wake-up call of what could be our future when a globalist terrorist organization aligned with the United Nations disables the U.S. power grid and institutes martial law. It will take a dedicated family of patriots armed with strong survival skills and the remains of the Second Amendment to save America and reclaim its freedom. This is the movie they do not want you to see, banned from Hollywood. It actually happened. Comes out in theaters March 2nd in Texas only at first, Texas Independence Day, then a wider release later, based on a true story that hasn't happened yet. Action-packed with multiple layers, political and personal. And there's some inside baseball to all this as a way to serialize it and to a general audience on television, wake people up to what's happening. Almost like Red Dawn 2.0 or America with a K with Chris Christopherson 2.0. Very, very important film. And yes, I'm in it. But that's not the reason it's important. It's the storyline of the film that will reach out to a larger audience. So that is coming up. Most of the brainwashing we see is in Hollywood. It's in entertainment television. We are beating the globalists when it comes to news with our information. But most of the real war is going on in the entertainment zone. That's why Amerigeddon is so important. AmerigeddonTheMovie.com, AmerigeddonTheMovie.com. We're going to tweet that out with the trailer that just went live at Infowars.com. We are going to tweet that out at Real Alex Jones, and we're going to be posting it to Facebook. Amerigeddon exclusive release, powerful film exposes globalist takeover plan. Director, son of Chuck Norris, reveals trailer on film no one wants you to see. So that is coming up. We'll release the film today that no one in the establishment wants you to see. So that is coming up. Alex Newman will be with us for the balance of the hour. Briefly here, we have come out with a private labeled, super high quality solar panel system that comes with the battery system and the control system with all the adapters that is about 40% less than the leading competitor. We have sold out of the other units that are for jumping your car and the rest of it that are way, 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 way under their competitors as well. This is really a high-quality unit, and we only have gotten 100 of these, and so it will sell out in the next few weeks or so. Plus, we don't have 100 because a couple people in the office want one. I'm going to get a couple of them. So let's just say we got about 60 of these left right now currently. So it could sell out in days at the current rates. And your purchase of this product makes what we do here possible, the InfoWars Solar Base Station Power Supply. Separately, we've got free shipping until December 18th when you're guaranteed to get your package before Christmas. If you order then, and we've got a bunch of specials, the Essentials Pack, Survival Shield X2, Super Male or Female Vitality, and Silver Bullet, Colloidal Silver, 33% off on top of free shipping. The Deep Cleanse Pack, Deep Cleanse, Living Defense, Oxy Powder, 28% off. Winter Sun, Vitamin D, the truly absorbable type, be taken under the tongue. Sublingual, 15% off, plus the free shipping. Deep Cleanse first ever sale, probably our hottest selling product, but we can't ever keep it in stock, so we can't get enough supply of it, so it's not our best seller because we just can't keep it. I'm just discounting it on top of that, 17% off and free shipping. And the Wake Up America coffee special, 2 bags of InfoWars coffee, super high quality from the high mountains, non-GMO, hand-picked by the local Chiapas farmers, organic, volcanic soil, and get an InfoWars mug free while supplies last. And a lot more at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com. And it is your purchase of the products that makes everything here possible. And in closing, it's important, just as important as buying products from us and checking them out. They're great prices, high quality, game changers. Is supporting our local AM/FM affiliates, becoming a sponsor, letting sponsors know why you're supporting them, letting stations know why you're supporting them, buying a billboard for the station. If people of means, middle class, upper middle class, nouveau riche, old money, if you don't start fighting, folks, if you don't start taking action like the producers of Amerigeddon have done and others have done, if you don't get involved in the fight now, we will lose everything. It's that simple. Now is the time. Now is the time to choose sides, because sitting in the middle is choosing a side. You're joining the globalist. They want you to sit on your butt and watch television all day or, watch the Kardashians. They don't want you to be informed and involved in taking action. Or they want you thinking of it as work. You're going to lose your freedom and lose your prosperity if you don't fight these people. And it's pretty easy to beat them because their program is so outrageous if we just take action. Everybody can see it. Now is the time. And Donald Trump is in the arena. They're taking out of context what he has to say. Some of the things he said I don't even agree with. It doesn't matter. He's exposing the globalist agenda, the big banks that are tax exempt, the open borders, world government, the plan to deindustrialize us, the plan that China gets to have carbon taxes on us. They have no carbon taxes to shut us down. He's telling the truth 98% of the time. There's another report out at Infowars.com, the plan. We ought to air some of this in the 4th hour today with the delegates run by Democrats in the Republican Party, basically, to make sure Donald Trump or Rand Paul or somebody like Ted Cruz doesn't get in. All right, enough of me ranting and raving. Let's go back now and give them the floor till we go to break in 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Alex Newman of the New American Magazine, investigative journalist in Paris for this key world government event now taking place. Continue to roll through all the different areas that you've been breaking down.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure to be able to share this information with your listeners. I think one of the things that the American people really need to know about here is we must stop this, and we can stop this. Right now, the politics of this is such that everybody here understands the U.S. Congress is not necessarily ready to play along with this. Senator Inhofe appeared on Monday here in Paris via video link, and he explained that, this is a sham. It's a fraud. We're not going to do it. The Congress is not going to fund it. Congress already opposes all of Obama's unilateral actions on global warming, and, so-called global warming, I should say. And, that is the key. We need to get our elected officials on board here. We need to educate them about the science, about the policy agenda that's being pursued by the United Nations and by Obama. Because if we don't stop it, we're going to lose what we have left of our freedom. We're going to lose what we have left of our markets and of our prosperity. And we're going to deindustrialize our society. We're going to condemn millions, maybe billions of people in poorer countries, undeveloped countries living under totalitarian dictatorships to perpetual poverty, probably death. So it's not a theoretical problem. It's not a political problem, but we as Americans can take action to stop this. And really, America is the only hope for stopping this. There's a big charade here about, Saudi Arabia isn't playing along, China's not playing along, and, they point the finger at it. They give out the fossil awards, and they say different governments aren't playing along. It's all a sham. They're all on board with this. China is on board with this. They love the idea that America is going to destroy its economy, move what little remains of our industry and our manufacturing over to China because it's too expensive to manufacture things in the United States thanks to the carbon taxes and Obama's power plan. So we need to stop this. Our prosperity, our liberty, our independence, our rights, and the future of our children and our grandchildren depend on putting a stop to this. And I think we can still do it if we put enough pressure on our elected representatives. And we have to be informed about it. There's plenty of information out there. There's plenty of science out there that people can use to educate themselves. If you're a scientist, if you're an expert, if you understand this stuff, if you have a PhD or a master's degree, pick up a copy of the NIPCC report, the Non-Governmental International Panel on Climate Change. What they did is they looked at all the peer-reviewed data, all the same reports that the UN was looking at, and they exposed the flaws in the United Nations conclusions and in their theory. And it's not even really a theory anymore. It's totally discredited. And that's another point I'll emphasize here, just in case there are any climate alarmists listening. I mean, the climate alarmists told us that as CO2 concentrations increased in the atmosphere, we were going to see increased global warming. We have had no global warming in 19 years, according to all 5 official data sets, the satellites, the surface data collected by different government agencies around the world. And so all of their models were wrong. The UN had 73 models in their last IPCC report. Every single one of them predicted warming, a lot of warming, accelerated warming as more CO2 went into the atmosphere. Instead, we've had flat temperatures. They predicted a melting Antarctic. It's not melting. It's growing by massive amounts. They predicted that the oceans were going to become acidified because of CO2 and that things were going to die. The opposite is happening.
Alex, I said I'd give you the floor, and you're totally on target like Lord Monckton and Mark Moreno and everybody else and all the scientists I've had on. But we know it's a fraud. For me, attacking the fact that they're exempt, they have diplomatic immunity, that Al Gore and all these groups actually get part of our tax money. For me, looking at this, that's what kills this, is that it's a criminal takeover. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's right. Even if the science were correct, which it's not, I challenge everybody to look it up if you have any doubts. But even if the science were correct, the so-called policy prescriptions are absolute suicide for everybody except the globalists, everybody except the Goldman Sachs, the big businesses that are sponsoring this. And people need to understand that. We are talking about condemning ourselves to poverty, our children to poverty, and millions, billions of people in the third world to poverty.
It's institutionalized serfdom. I'm sorry. It is. It's institutionalized serfdom.
It's a perfect way to describe it, Alex, because that is where the world we're going toward. Why is Communist China playing such a big role in these negotiations? Because that is the kind of model they want for the world. Outright totalitarianism, no freedom of speech, lots of special privileges for the rulers, lots of oppression for the ruled, and the climate hoax is a crucial element of the agenda. It's not the only element, but it's crucial. When they can demonize carbon dioxide as pollution, they can control and regulate every aspect of our lives. There is no human activity that doesn't produce carbon dioxide, including me sitting here on this chair and exhaling. That produces carbon dioxide. Every time you take a breath, that's carbon dioxide.
And they say that is a pollutant. Even the New York Times, as you know, admitted 6-7 years ago was a headline, a tax on breathing. They're actually saying what we exhale is evil. How asinine is that? I mean, this is so obviously anti-human.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, when I was little, I used to joke they're going to try to tax the air, right? They're going to try to tax our breathing. And here it is. I'm sitting in Paris, and that's what they're talking about, putting a tax on the gas of life that we all exhale. It's absurd, it's criminal, and it needs to be exposed. And thank you so much, Alex, for what you're doing to bring attention to this issue.
Continue with what you've witnessed, what you've seen, other key points watching this conference. I mean, please go over all that, but I just want to go back again. Unelected world government, they admit they're integrating it with the TPP, integrating it with the NAU, the EU. I mean, this is just a huge transference of power from our already corrupt national governments to totally diplomatically immune shadow groups of rock stars and movie stars stumbling around with hookers all around them. I mean, I've been watching the TV telling us how to live. I mean, this is too rich.
That's right, and it's very evident from the treaty that's come out. It's still got a lot of brackets in it. They're supposedly negotiating what's going to stay in and come out. But it's very evident from the treaty that we're going to be giving the United Nations all kinds of new powers. Every government in the world, national government, especially Western governments, is going to be accountable to this climate regime and to implement all the measures inside of it. If this is going to be codified into international law, and, you know, if Obama manages to pull off this stunt, adopting a treaty without having the Senate ratify it and making it binding on the American people, that includes us as well. So we need to stop it. And, you know, I think one of the really crucial things that people need to understand, nobody reported this in the media, but you have an alliance here called G77 plus Communist China, the group of 77. It's not actually 77. It's 134 governments of different varieties, communist dictators, Islamist dictators, backwards third world regimes, oppressive dictators.
Wait, are you about to criticize the fact that Saudi Arabia runs the UN Human Rights Commission?
That too. But this G70, the Human Rights Commission, don't even get me started, Alex. It is such a joke. You put mass murderers, genocidal maniacs, communist dictators on a Human Rights Commission.
Why are you being racist against dictators and genocidal maniacs? Sorry, go ahead.
Is that a race? Yeah. But no, the G77 plus Communist China here, we've been trying to score an interview with them since we got here. They won't give it to us. They keep saying, oh, I'll come back later, send us an email, you know, blah, blah, blah. They don't want to talk to us. But they put out a statement early on this week saying if you Western governments don't fork over $100 billion a year to start in climate reparations, and significantly more was the term they used after 2020, none of this is going anywhere. We're not going to play along here. So this is an extortion racket. They're demanding massive international wealth redistribution from the poor people in the Western country, you know, middle class.
Well, this is what they do.
Devastate us. Right. It's a scam, and they want all of this wealth transferred to them under the guise of climate reparations. They say, well, the West emitted carbon dioxide, so, you know, now we had an industrial revolution, we had technological progress, we developed medicines and agriculture, and so now for that, now we need to pay them back with climate reparations so that their dictatorships can stash their money in the secret bank accounts and better oppress their people. It is disgusting that this could be happening, and it's even more disgusting that the press here is taking this whole sham seriously. So thank you, Alex, for, you know, just getting the word out there about this. There's so few voices out there that are exposing this hoax for what it is. I know the American people are catching on to this. It's becoming clear. We had a poll from Pew last year. Less than 40% of the American people believe in the anthropogenic global warming theory. So the American people aren't on board with this. But to hear it at this conference, the whole world is demanding climate justice and that we all enslave ourselves to this UN climate regime, and the American people are the key to stopping it. So everybody who's listening to this needs to get busy. Educate yourself. Educate your elected officials. If your elected officials won't listen, replace them.
Now, I'm showing my cell phone on television right now. My handheld tracking computer is what it really is. And my dad sent me this a few days ago, so I actually picked one of these December 4th Chronicles up, and I forgot to bring it to work today, so all I have is the screenshot. But just opening it up and literally spending maybe 2 minutes at red lights yesterday looking at it, but again, I do have a screenshot of it to show TV viewers here. The Chronicle had an article about shaking down super liberal Kirby Lane cafes for money and complaints because 2 Islamic women were wearing headdresses in there and claimed somebody said go back to Saudi Arabia and then they demanded the guy be thrown out. And Kirby Lane said, sorry, we didn't see him say it. The manager didn't make a scene, put the guys on the other side of the restaurant. They were, waiting to be seated. No proof this even happened, and it's a big cover story. Let's skip this network break. I have to because of time constraints. And they're making a huge deal out of it. That was one article I wanted to show folks, the big Kirby Lane conspiracy. You can actually find it online. Just type in Kirby Lane controversy, Austin Chronicle crew. We can show it to folks. I wasn't thinking, hey, we don't have to have the paper. We have it digitally. But look at this from the paper, a screenshot, a photo. New World Order, throwing it in our face. This is just what's in the local paper, just filled with how mothers and fathers are bad and turn your guns in and world government's good. Watch your language. Number one, recently added to the list of words and phrases to be offensive and officially discouraged on campus, according to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee website, because they're God and they say so. Political correctness. The phrase is said to be microaggression that might make some students feel uncomfortable or unsafe if they hear it. And then it goes on to say, read it on page 2. So they sit there with a straight face, a total cult, saying you will not use the word political correctness, even though that's a Soviet term they themselves used. I mean, this shows these people know they're taking over the whole language. Up at a university in Pennsylvania, we reported yesterday, this was in mainstream news, AP reported, there it is, breakfast with bigots. Kirby Lane deals with fallout from customer Islamophobic comments. This protected group claims someone said something to him at the cafes that literally are full of green and orange-haired people. I'm not against Kirby Lane. It's a fine place to eat. I go there sometimes. It's just the point is it's super liberal, super trendy, and now they have the owners prostrating themselves, begging to some made-up phantom, probably more made up than the poop swastika or all the fake other things they've admitted is garbage. And so, but separately, they're in here saying, Alex, you will talk like we talk, and you will not use the word political correctness so they can destroy language. So they can totally and completely dominate everything people are saying. So now they're saying the name of a study hall is called Lynch Hall, after a patron of the school. Nothing to do with lynching. It's an Irish name, means seaman, means boatman, means person of the sea, means man in longboat, really means Viking, if you go back to the original Gaelic. And they want that man saying the word scares them, but they don't want Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, to change her name. This is nothing but exercise of raw cult power. And even the idiot kids know it's about power. Even the idiot 20-year-olds who are Arrested Development children know it's about power. Even with true liberals at Yale that said, we will not ban people having private Halloween parties. If you're offended by a cowboy or an Indian, literally the letter said, then you need to just look away because this is what free speech is. And they've now resigned. So this is how free on these little reservations they are, where they're growing these pod people to then put them in charge at every level in uniform running our lives. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
You know, the language manipulation element of this is crucial. I think that's one of the ways that they've suckered all these journalists into playing along with this scam. I can give you just one example of, hundreds. They talk about all the parties here. This is the conference of the parties, right? That's what the COP stands for. The parties, they keep referring to them as countries. Now, is Raul Castro a country? Is the mass murdering dictatorship in Beijing a country? Is Robert Mugabe a country?
No, it's a regime. It's a gang with a flag.
Exactly. These are gangsters and mass murderers who've somehow managed to take over a country and oppress the citizens of the country. So we should stop with the charade. There's no countries here. There's governments. There's fake activists that are funded by governments. There's fake media that are funded by governments. And there's a bunch of servants to wait on all these people from the government. So it's just one example of countless that I could cite of how the left and how the United Nations and how the totalitarians are manipulating language and the effect that it has on people. When you hear that countries are negotiating to save the world from climate change, if you're not well educated, it's easy to be susceptible to this kind of groupthink. Oh, countries, that's wonderful. Let's all countries
because it's a tissue of lies. I mean, they're creating an entire atmosphere of baloney. Our Congress can't even see these agreements. They're still secret, most of them. We couldn't see the Copenhagen Agreement. We couldn't see the TPP. But you just hear, oh, your leaders are there negotiating. No, criminals are there negotiating personal money of ours to themselves. Total racketeering, total gangster fraud beyond anything Al Capone could ever imagine.
You're exactly right, Alex. That's a perfect description of what's happening here. It's a criminal operation. They're talking about how they're going to divide up our wealth, how they're going to strip away our liberties, how quickly they're going to implode our economies. And it's unacceptable. The people of the world, the actual countries, need to say enough of this scam. Congress needs to say no more money for Obama's global warming.
But I mean, wait a minute.
No more money for negotiators.
The so-called communist beatniks at the Chronicle, the owner literally makes like $20 million a year, owns South by Southwest. He says you shouldn't be able to have a car, basically, or a gun, even though he lives in armored palaces and has bodyguards and pays his staff almost nothing. He says you will use the words he says. You want to bow down to him right now? He tried to have my magazines we gave out free banned downtown 2 years ago. I mean, shouldn't we just kneel because he has curly long hair and a big belly and go, "You're liberal. We worship you. You're our God. We'll talk like you say. We love your party. We love the death mills and all the dead babies. We worship you. You're the boss." Absolutely. You're not a totalitarian freak, control freak. You're not a giant gang. You're a bunch of loving liberals because you said so. I'm sorry, Alex Newman, New American Magazine.
That's right. The hypocrisy is off the charts here, showing up in private jets so Arnold Schwarzenegger can lecture us about not eating meat.
Well, he said, kill yourself. So he said, kill yourself. He said, kill yourself.
Ted Turner wants to reduce the population of the planet by billions of people, and then he's got his 5 children. You know, I have no problem with him having 5 children. That's wonderful. But don't come over here and start talking about
Schwarzenegger has got a bunch of kids out of wedlock. All the rest of it, eats meat all the time, has dozens of jets, hundreds of cars, admittedly, all these big palaces, but you shouldn't be able to have meat because he told Rolling Stone in 1978, "I want to be a dictator. I like Hitler. I want to tell people what to do." Now, these are real quotes. "I want to tell you what to do. I want to be remembered more than Jesus. I like Hitler." And he reportedly, to the makers of that film, Pumping Iron, he literally answers the door in SS uniforms playing records of Hitler speeches. I mean, but it's okay because the ADL loves him. The product of an SS breeding program getting awards from the ADL, just like they give awards to George Soros, the top living Nazi collaborator.
Yep, and you know who else is here? We saw him yesterday in the hallway. I tried to chase him down for an interview, but of course he doesn't want to talk to non-propaganda media. But we have John Holdren here, Obama's science czar, the guy who wrote a book saying we need forced abortions, that we need to put sterilizing agents in the water supply so that people need to ask permission to have children. The guy who wants to exterminate people. The guy who blames record cold and record snow on global warming.
Let me quote Schwarzenegger publicly in Rolling Stone while they were in the gym in Venice Beach in front of them. "Down with the blacks. You and the people are not humans. And meanwhile, though, he then joins with the left to dismantle the West. I mean, you talk about he thinks he can dominate us with Soros. Well, let me tell you something, Schwarzenegger. I can look at you and tell that your ticket's about to be punched. You look like you're warmed over dead, and no amount of heart surgeries or anything's going to save you. You are damned to Hades, Schwarzenegger, if there's any justice in this world. I'm sorry, but these are sick, demonic, eugenics ghouls feeding on us. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
You're right, Alex, and we need to be very clear with our elected officials that this is not going to fly. The American people need to stand up. We're the last hope for stopping this charade that's happening.
Stay there. I'm going to come back to you. Absolutely. I'm going to come back for 5 more minutes. "I was just dreaming about being a dictator greater than Jesus. I want people to be under me. I want to tell them what to do." Those are real quotes, by the way. Mike Norris, the accomplished director, actor, the progeny of the great and mighty King Norris, will be joining us in studio. I'm a little bit wound up. Okay, only 1 cup of coffee so far today, but I am wound up right now. I am wound up. I am angry. I get upset. But at the same time, I get happy when I'm fighting tyranny. So thank you for putting up with me. I'm going to control myself now, or I'll be totally exhausted by this evening if I continue to bounce all over the walls here. But that's what's happening. Dems propose civil rights for illegals. ISIS to enter the U.S. Kit Daniels, Infowars.com. Senator Sessions has released the plan that they're planning to put through Congress. Any alien denied entry could file suit to demand entry and claims damages. That's for the lawyers to make money, too. For lost employment, lost welfare benefits, lost income. And they want to let ISIS in. We'll break this down coming up later in the hour. But Alex Newman, again, you had the fortune or misfortune of joining me today in the last hour when I was in particular piranha mode. You're right, though. This is the battle. The enemy's inside the gates. It's actually the animating contest of liberty. What can we do to expose the fact that the entire West is being usurped into an anti-human eugenics world government as we speak?
I think one of the best things that people can do is, first of all, educate themselves and then spread the word. You know, share Alex Jones' program through your Twitter, through your Facebook with your friends. Share the New Americans articles. Get the information out there so that people realize. Because what I've found, and we've interviewed a number of people who used to be global warming alarmists. We interviewed an engineer who quit his job to get involved in stopping global warming until he realized it was all a fraud. So the facts are compelling. The truth stands on its own. Yes, the globalists have billions, trillions of dollars. Yes, they control all the big media, and, you know, they're the rock stars here. But, you know, the truth stands on its own. We don't need the billions of dollars. We need the facts. We need the truth. And with those two weapons, we can stop this scam. And once the American people are sufficiently educated, we can work with our elected officials. And, you know, Congress could very easily stop this. Every Republican in Congress ran on a platform of stopping Obama. Now you have an opportunity to stop Obama. When you pass the budget, say not one penny of this budget is going to climate negotiations. Not one penny of this budget is going to the cap and trade that you couldn't even get through the Democrat-controlled Congress. Not one penny of this money is going for the gun grab. Not one penny of this money is going for any of Obama's agenda. So Republicans who say, oh, we can't do anything, we need to win the White House, they're not telling the truth. They control the power of the purse. So if we get educated, if we educate our communities, if we educate our lawmakers, we can stop this, and we can do it without a lot of work and without a lot of problems. If we let it continue, if we let it go on until we lose the means of resisting, you know, at that point, then maybe it's time to start panicking. But for now, we still have all the opportunities in the world to put a stop to this. We have all the necessary tools to resist this, and we need to get busy. Because
don't squeeze, only tickle.
Do it. There goes Schwarzenegger again, right? And there's a whole bunch of nutty American officials here. You have the EPA chief here, who's the one in charge of implementing all of Obama's.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to go off on Schwarzenegger. I mean, I love some of his earlier movies like Running Man and Predator, and Conan the Barbarian is just amazingly, not Conan the Destroyer, that's comedy, but Conan the Barbarian is amazing. I like Arnold Schwarzenegger as an actor, quite frankly, but as a person, he's an oppressive, evil. He makes Lance Armstrong look like a humanitarian. I mean, the stuff he's been involved in, the arrogance, I hate him. He's just the antithesis of Americana, and I literally just want him out of my life. I mean, he literally is perching on me with munalization, trying to take over all the major cities and put us under carbon tax one way or the other. I mean, I'm sure, as you know, Alex, he quarterbacks that whole operation.
Yep. And, you know, he's a good representative for the type of people who are here at this UN summit. They're, you know, at least at the upper levels, they're all totalitarian. They're all incredible hypocrites. And they all want to, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, control your life. And so people need to understand.
He says he admires Hitler. Listen, Alex, thank you so much. Great job. Folks can read your reports without all my screaming. But we need some screaming, too, at the New American magazine, newamerican.com. Thank you so much, brother. We'll be talking to you again soon after you get back from Paris.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Mike Norris is coming up.
Another GOP debate is upon us, a time to see how much attention will be allotted to establishment candidates who are dragging in the polls.
These are Republican governors. They don't give any credit to the free market. They don't give any credit to the entrepreneur.
All is not lost, though. Some are speaking on real issues.
But if you're not going to respond in a no-fly zone strategy, what would yours be?
The first thing I would do is I wouldn't arm our enemies. I wouldn't arm ISIS.
Yes.
Will controversial statements impact some of the candidates?
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Join InfoWars this Tuesday, December 15th, starting at 7 p.m. Central for another episode of Political Science Theater 3K.
Okay, so 2 years ago, I found myself on the couch, completely out of shape, overweight. I had no muscle tone, and I just felt horrible. And I knew I needed to make a change, and I needed to start going to the gym and working out. And I did that. I would force myself to go to the gym, and it really wasn't going very well. That's when my buddy Alex told me to try the Super Male Vitality. And that's what changed everything for me.
Shane Steiner's involvement with InfoWarsLife.com truly happened in an organic way. I went to high school with Shane, his brother, knew his parents well. And he was visiting the office once, hadn't been to the office in years, and said, wow, I notice you're making and selling supplements. Do these really work? Because I've tried a lot of supplements as a workout enthusiast, and I really think most of them are hype. And I said, here, take some home, try it. Well, a few weeks later, he came in blown away and said, I want to buy 3 boxes of this stuff to give my friends and family. It's simply amazing. He said, why does it work so well? And I said, listen, go to InfoWarsLife.com, watch the informational videos with Dr. Group and others. They understand how it all works. I know that it works for me. That's all I understand. The science, the facts, the research, people's testimonials, they're all on InfoWarsLife.com. You can check it out for yourself.
I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to push myself and work out harder. And that led to me being able to come out and do stuff like the barefooting and the surfing and stuff like that, which I've never done. I never would have done that 2 years ago.
Shane has said over and over again, more than just libido and energy, it made him want to get into the gym more. It made him want to get in better shape. And believe me, the Steiners have amazing genetics. His brother is a world champion steer wrestler. His dad, Bobby Steiner, is a famous world champion bull rider. They've got natural genetics. But when you added this to the mix, in Shane's own words, it took him to the next level. Shane noticed the mental clarity. Bobby was able to work out longer and gain muscle mass. He's already completely shredded. I gotta admit, for me, the biggest effect has been libido. Now, I've never claimed to have a body like some beach model, but back when I was 20, 22 years old and worked out every day, I looked great. But over the years, and being married, having 3 kids, and working 18 hours a day, I gained basically 100 pounds. And it's been a long process losing that weight in the last 4 years. But if you look at the photos and the videos of what I looked like 4 or 5 years ago versus today, the results are dramatic. I'd already cleaned up my diet. I was working out hard, but I'd only lost about 20 pounds. It was adding the other key ingredients from InfoWarsLife.com that helped me personally go to the next level and shed another 35 pounds.
This has actually made me feel so good that here lately, about a year ago, I started training jiu-jitsu, and that kind of led to doing some boxing and kickboxing. I mean, it's amazing that 2 years ago, I was on the couch and couldn't even tie my shoes, and now I'm training with MMA fighters and just doing stuff that I never thought that I would be doing ever again. So Super Male Vitality has allowed me to do some amazing things, and if it has those kind of effects for me, I know that it will do great things for you. So just try Super Male Vitality. I promise you, you'll love it.
And finally, let's look at Anthony Gucciardi, Infowars.com reporter. He also works with Dr. Group and others, helping develop the newest, most cutting-edge, high-quality supplements. Let's take a look at what happened when he tried to barefoot ski for the first time with the Steiners. And remember, we're not making fun of him. He had the will to get in the arena, and he's lost more than 10 pounds in the last few years of fat and gained more than 10 pounds of muscle. And Anthony chalks it up to Super Male Vitality as well. Bottom line, folks, you want to discover the power of Super Male Vitality and Super Female Vitality for yourself by visiting InfoWarsLife.com today or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.